It's time for those cute gnome triangles. Let's do it. Hi everyone, Cristin here, and today we are going to do those gnome triangles. So I actually have not sewn on my inner borders yet, but I will add a photo because I'm sure I'll get that done before I do the editing of this video. But once you have your center blocks, the deck of cards, and then your inner borders on, then it's time to do the triangles, the very cute triangles. All right, so grab your packet if you made packets. It is on page 31 of our booklet, and we'll just go over what we need. So this one is not going to include embroidery software, in that we can't do more than one in a hooping, but I will open it in software to show you how to move the gnome. I'll do that very quickly just to give you a visual, but other than that, we're going to do one in each hooping. So it will be 4 hoopings for the triangles depending on your hoop size. I'm going to do the 9x14 one. If you're doing 5x7, it may, I assume it's probably, I'm not sure actually, but anyway, depending on which version you're going to do. All right, so let's go ahead and go over the products that we need for today. So we're going to start with our main fabric. Our main fabric is white with white dots on it, and it's a big one. I'm going to re-iron mine because I've got a crease down the middle since it didn't fit in our packets well. But this, we are going to start with that 13 by 13 square, okay? 13 by 13 square. There has been some confusion about, they're called triangles, right? But we'll go over it just like we always do, step by step. So like I said, 2 pieces, 13 by 13, and then we will subcut these, and that will make our triangle. All right, we're going to subcut them, and I will show you that when we get there. All right, subcut, and then we'll have 4 pieces, but for now it's 2 squares at 13 by 13. All right, and then we have our applique pieces. All right, there's not much space here to put all my stuff, so excuse me reaching around and so forth. All right, so first we're going to have the body of the gnome, and it is the little green with green flowers on it. There's 4, no, there's more than that. Let's see, 1, 2, 4. There's 4 gnomes. All right, so 4 pieces of the green with green flowers on it, and we're going to start with these at 3 by 3. 3 by 3. I did back these with Fusible stabilizer to ward off puckering. This is for the body of the gnome, and I'll also go over all of the thread colors that I've chosen because I did mine a little bit different than what's in the guide. All right, and then we are going to have the beard. Now this part I want to talk to you about. We have 4 pieces of the white swirly fabric. Can you see that? There's little swirls on there. There, now you can see it. All right, so 4 pieces, and you do want to back these 4 with Fusible stabilizer. It's really important that you do, because think about this white is going to be on the screen, and you want this to look white. You don't want it to look a muted green color. So that stabilizer will help keep it the white color and block out the green that's underneath it. All right, so 4 pieces, and these are going to be 2.5 by 2.5, 4 pieces backed with Fusible stabilizer. All right, but we also want 12 more pieces of that same, it's the white swirly fabric, and these we don't want Fusible stabilizer on. We are going to use these to chenille. So I want to talk to you about chenilling real quick. So this, like I said, is 12 pieces. All right, so 4, what is it? 4 pieces, it must be 3 because with the other one. So 3 pieces for each gnome to be able to chenille. That first one we will put down as our base layer, and then the 3 on top of that is what we will use to chenille. Okay, we will not cut up that base one that has the Fusible stabilizer on it, but we will cut these up and then use a brush, which I didn't bring. It's interesting, I'll have to figure out what to use. I'll probably use a hairbrush or something, but anyway, to be able to chenille these. All right, now if you're not a fan of chenille, you have other options. You could use minky, you could use fleece, you could use whatever you want if you choose not to chenille your beard. I'm gonna chenille them because it's kind of funny. When I first started doing chenille, I wasn't really a fan. I think it was the pineapples on the Hello Sunshine block. I'm kind of a neat freak. You can't tell here. So my daughter's house is extremely neat and very, very, very organized, which it really has to be because there's so many children and so many activities, and they do homeschool, and there's just stuff everywhere, but it's all super organized. But anyway, sorry, back to chenille. So when I did the pineapples on the Hello Sunshine quilt years ago, I was like, all right, I don't do well with messy. Like, this just looks messy to me. And I wasn't really a fan. And then I got into it, and like I think I diverted and did Minky or something on a different project. And then I came back to chenille and tried it again. And when you get it done right, when you've got a good chenille brush and you take the time to really fluff up that chenille look, it's pretty cool. And it's a new, another thing to learn and another thing to master and to grow from, right? So totally up to you. You can do a minky beard. You can do your chenille beard. Up to you completely. Whatever works for you. I'm going to do the chenille, and I will show you how. I'll probably end up fixing the chenille when I get home to my chenille brush. I will do my best with the tools that I have here, but I don't have everything here. So I didn't think of bringing that. I should have. So anyway, chenille or not chenille, I want to know what you're going to do, and either way is totally fine. All right, and then the last thing that we need is that very pretty applique glitter vinyl, the applique glitter vinyl. So it's the green sparkly glitter vinyl, and we want 4 pieces that are 3 by 3. And as always, you're going to take off that top layer, which is the plastic. There's just this plastic on the top of the vinyl. All right, just like that. You're going to take that off, and we'll go over that when we get to this step, but you're just going to use this glitter vinyl part, and you're going to adhere it with an iron with a pressing cloth over the top for about 15 seconds, and that will work great for the hat. All right, so that's the hat. And then, like I said, I'll go over all of the thread colors that I'm going to use, so you can use whatever you have from your stash. It's up to you. But those are the only products for our applique, and we are going to do 4 of these triangle blocks. So we are going to quilt them also. And whenever we quilt them, we're going to use our batting. So I don't remember where I wrote down the batting. I bet, sorry. All right, the batting is going to be 7 1/4 by 13 1/2. 4 pieces, 7 1/4 by 13 1/2. Now here's where the question came up. People were saying, well, how do I make that into a triangle? It's not, it's a rectangle. See? Nice long rectangle at this point. All right, 7 1/4 by 13 1/2. And then when we put it down, when we cover that placement stitch for the batting and tack it down, that's when we will trim it, and you'll see it will be a triangle. But at this point, it's not. It's 7 1/4 by 13 1/2. Just follow step by step. Don't overthink it. I'll go over all of it. Don't worry. It will be a triangle after we do the placement and tack down stitches of the batting. And then we trim, and that makes it into a triangle. You'll see, don't worry. All right, and then for our quilting, let me go back to that page, hold on. All right, so for our quilting, we are gonna use Triangle Gnome, KDQ 150 Triangle Gnome for our quilting on this. And one important thing is we do need to move that gnome. So I will show you, I'll give you a visual of how to do that and where to line it up and all that, but it's very simple. And we've done it with one of them. We did it with the snowman. I guess we did it with the February one as well. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started on our triangles. Hey everyone, real quick, I wanted to show you, give you a quick visual of how to move the gnome to where we need it to be on the triangle block. So I am going to open up Embrilliance Essentials. As you know, I'm visiting my grandkids, so everything looks a little different, including my Embrilliance and my video recorder and so on. So I've opened up Embrilliance. Let me move it over here. It says I'm on a 200 by 300 millimeter hoop. I'm on millimeters. I don't know millimeters. So I'm going to go here to this folder, the preferences folder. And I do have a 9 by 14 hoop loaded. That's good. So I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to go to this compass button and say H. so that it zooms into my hoop. All right, and then I'm going to bring in the quilting design. I need to bring in the quilting design first. All right, so we're looking for centers and triangles march right here. Centers and triangles march. Click on that. And we are looking for, all right, I think my computer is just so little memory and all that. I'm going to try doing it this way. All right, so I did it from going to File Open, selecting the file, and then I can see it here. So I click Open, and there it works. So generally, you can just use this merge stitch file, but I think because of this computer, it's just being problematic. So there was another option of going to File Open and finding the file that way. All right, so there is our quilting design. And like I said, I'm using the 9x14 version. Now, if I go to add in the next file, which is that Gnome, let's see if we can try it this way with the merge stitch file button. All right, so there's the Gnome right there. I double click on that and it will go to the center. And obviously you can see that we need to rotate it and move it. It's a little harder on this little computer, but I'm going to go ahead and click on the Gnome. So you saw I just clicked on it. You want to make sure that you only have the Gnome, and I don't. I have the entire quilting design right now. So just on the Gnome. So that's why I closed that to see what I have here. So if I click on just the Gnome part, I can go ahead and click this button here. They'll rotate 90 degrees. You can see it right here. I'm going to click that, and then I need to move it to be level with this outer button here, this outer, the placement and tack down of the main fabric part, because right now it's lower, it's on the batting part. We want it on the last line, which is this gray line back here. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So if I click on this compass here, I can click to where I want to see, and then I can press the mouse scroll to be able to zoom in, and I can bring this so it's right here. This is the outer line. It's hard to see. You could change the color of it if that will help to be able to see it better, but at this point I want to stay on this center guide, so you can see that we're on the center guide. When I zoom out, you can see the center. So here's the center and center. So I want to stay on that center, but I want to bring it to the left is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the arrow buttons on my keyboard so that I can stay right on that center. And the line that I'm looking for is this very faint little line right here. This is that outer, the placement and tack down of the main fabric, and that's the line that we want it to be on. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, and then I'm going to zoom in over here. So if I click that compass and go over here and then zoom in, see, I can see it much better here. This is an easier way to see. So I'm right on that line. That's the perfect spot for it. I'm going to zoom out and then go back to that compass, drag my mouse over to this part, and then zoom in again using the mouse button, and that is perfect. So that is exactly where we want it. I hope that you can see that well. I'm sorry I'm on this tiny little computer, which makes it definitely harder, but like I said, your aim is to get on this outer line, the last part of the design, all right, which the biggest part of the design is always that placement and tack down of the main fabric. So that's the line that you want to get it on, and you want it to stay on the center line, which is right here. All right, so that's all done. That's all perfect. I'm going to go ahead and do a file, save stitch file as. And I don't need to do any color sorting or grouping or anything because it's just this one design in one hoop since it's such a large design. So I'm going to do a file, save stitch file as, and then it is going to my quilting design. I'm going to actually bring it to the regular designs, not the quilting designs. So the embroidery files, Pez is what I use for my machine, and I'm going to say 9x14 Gnome Triangle. That's what I'm going to name mine. You could name it whatever is going to make it easy for you to find it. And then my machine is not set up for sending it to the machine, so I will save it to a USB drive. And you know, I'm going to show you how to do that because there's been a lot of questions about that. Let me grab my USB. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to take my USB stick and plug it into my USB port on my computer. That little dinging sound and saying, oh, I know you've added something into me here. So here's my deck of cards, which I don't need. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. So I have one USB stick that I use for doing this type of thing, transferring it to an embroidery machine, and it's a clear stick. I have heard, and I don't know for sure, but I've heard that if you're using a stick that has a ton of stuff on it, it can get corrupt and have issues. So why chance it, right? So I'm going to go ahead. I have my USB drive open. It's right here. What I'm going to do, this is what I do, all right? I'm going to click on that drive and I'm going to say Control N, and it opens up another folder. So N like new, all right? New folder. And it opens up the same one, but it makes it so that I have two. I have one folder here, which I'll shrink it down so you can see both. All right, and there's the second one. So I just want to be able to see both of them together. That's my whole purpose. When I click on that folder, it makes it be the one that's selected. All right, so I have this one, which is my USB drive. And then on this one, I'm going to go to where I have my design files. All right, so I am going to see how it's pink. Mine is pink, so it's showing me that that's the one that's highlighted. And I'm going to go to, I have my files, I moved them all to my Dropbox really quick on my way out so that I have everything. So I'm going to go to Computer Files at Mrs. and then to my table topper. And we saved it in the embroidery files. Pez is what I use for my machine. And we used 9x14 gnome triangle. Now this is what I do. This I think is really important. I click on it and I say Control C to copy, and then I go over to this folder, and all I have to do is click on this. It's my USB drive, and then I'm going to say Control V like victory to paste it, and I'm going to say yes. And now it's there. So you saw when I opened up my USB drive, I deleted the item that was in there, the last item that I used. And that I know that that's okay because I always copy. I don't save it only to my USB drive. I use this just as a way to bring it back and forth. I always keep the actual files on my hard drive or my desktop or my Dropbox or whatever, and I just copy one over to my USB stick. So that's what works for me. You saw how easy that was. I have two folders open so I can easily, you could drag and drop also, that works. But I like to make sure that I'm copying one so that I always have my original one. Right there is the original in my folder, and then here's the one that's for my USB drive. So that's how easy it is to bring something over to a USB stick, to bring it over to your embroidery machine. There have been questions about that because a lot of times I send it wirelessly to my embroidery machine, but I didn't bring that machine. So I figured, hey, I've got this opportunity. I can show you how easy it is to transfer it over to a USB stick. So I hope that helps. right, so I pointed this out for January and again for February. I'm going to point it out again for March. We are going to cut all the way down, all the way, not stopping where it has that little stop in the stitching, all the way to the end, and then we will turn our fabric and we will do the same thing on each of the edges of the triangle. Sorry. Okay, so all the way, and I'll show you in photos, but just remember, we do not stop at the stitching. We go all the way so that all of the corners are going to match. They will meet all the way here, all the way. I'm going to show you. All right, so we did the first cut along the bottom edge, and then we're going to cut all the way past the stitching. Don't stop here, cut all the way across. All right, so notice how we cut the top part of this whole triangle right there. We've got that all cut all the way to the edge, and then we did the same on this angle all the way until the fabrics meet. We did not cut at this little stitching here. We kept going all the way. So now we're going to do it the same thing on this last part. We're going to go past this stitching until we hit the fabric. As soon as we get to the end of the fabric where the fabric meets the fabric, we're going to use that. And I am using the basting stitch as my guide because I don't have all my tools. If you had all your tools, you can just know that this is your 1/4 inch seam allowance, whatever works for you. But just do not stop cutting at this stitching. Make sure it goes all the way to the end. And I'm wearing a gnome shirt. So it's not as cold here. I'm in California, and so I'm wearing a shirt instead of a sweater. But this one says hanging with my gnomies. I believe it was Planet Applique. I'm pretty sure it was a Planet Applique design. I'm not positive of that, but I will find out and link underneath this video. If you scroll all the way down under the video, I always give information on where I got the shirt. And this was minky. Is it minky or fleece actually? But anyway, the beards are just a very simple minky or fleece. I think it's fleece because it's not soft like minky. So anyway, fun shirt. I love this one. It's one of my favorites. And the shirt itself is from Amazon, and it's got a hood and long sleeves and a little kangaroo pocket. And it's a little bit stretchy. It's a really good hanging shirt. It doesn't bunch up in a weird way. It's a really good shirt for embroidery. I love this one. So I will add a link to that as well if you decide to get it from Amazon.